Welcome back, my friends. This is your Karthik Nagarajan, your technology buddy. Now, today I would want us to discuss about a very key aspect because nowadays people are building websites, but I have been hearing about one request from everyone that how can we integrate with the payment processing platform, that is PSPs, payment service providers. There are a lot of PSPs in each and every country. So that is a payment service provider is someone who has been approved to be a payment platform, a payment gateway by the central bank or the reserve bank of that country. So when we look at it, each and every country has their own set of payment gateways. So I have just looked at all the payment gateways, whichever I have implemented the integration with, and from where I have now taken notes and did my research on a generic way of giving a clear picture of how can it be integrated with what you have built, whether it is an app or a website or a mobile app. Let's say even if it is an API gateway that you already have for certain platforms which should go through a payment gateways. So now how can we integrate with payment gateways? I would want to approach this in two directions. One is what is payment gateway, how the process happens, and what really happens with the payment gateway, one side, on the perspective of the end users. So the end users can also understand, okay, when I click, what happens at the backend? So what is the brain behind? And then the other one is when now a programmer comes on board and the programmer feels like if he is assigned with how to integrate, for him to integrate with the payment gateway, he should not be feeling like, how should I be implementing it? What should I learn for it? Don't worry about those things, because I have trained so many of my staff members. I've trained so many of the programmers to integrate, and I myself have integrated various payment gateways. So I would just take you through a process. Don't think about anything, just listen to what I am showing you, look at what I am showing you, and then listen to what I am giving you a step by step, and then you take notes, start your research, implement it with your payment provider, maybe from India, Kenya, US, whatever the country is. There are set of payment gateways, but everyone follows the same procedure because payment processing goes through what we call FinAPI, financial APIs, that is FAP. We call FAPI, financial APIs. So financial API structure is usually the common, and not usually, globally the common one. Let's go into the video. Now, let us discuss the business flow where these payment processing happens, how in an end user's point of view, to understand what the payment gateway process is. A person opens your website, looks at your product or service, feels comfortable with it, and then clicks the pay button. Then, at that moment, your website is not touching the money at all. It is only asking a trusted payment company to safely handle the payment on your behalf. Your system quietly creates a payment request with the amount and the reason for the payment and sends this request to the payment company. The payment company prepares a secure payment page only for this one customer, only for this one payment, and sends a secure payment link back to your system. Your website opens this secure payment page for the customer, where the customer enters the card details, chooses a wallet, approves a bank payment or on a mobile money, sees a prompt on the phone asking for a PIN. None of the sensitive details ever passed through your website. Everything happens inside the secure system of the payment company, because they are the certified, they have the data protection, they have the payment service providers license from the central bank and the reserve bank. So they have their own certifications and protocols. So all those details are handled from the payment company. The customer completes the payment and sees a message on the screen that the payment is successful or failed. At the same time, the payment company sends a secret confirmation message directly to your server to tell you what actually happened with that payment. Your server receives this confirmation and updates the payment status from pending to paid or failed, and only at this moment does your system believe the payment is real. Until the confirmation comes from that payment company, your system will not and should not assume the payment has been successful. Once the payment is confirmed by your server, your website unlocks access, confirms the order, or activates the service that the customer paid for. Later, the payment company collects many such payments from many customers and sends the final amount to your business bank account after deducting their service fees. When everything is matched and settled, your records clearly show which customer paid, which orders were completed, and how much money actually reached your bank. Now, let us discuss the same process from a programmer's point of view. A programmer first builds three basic parts: the customer screen, where the payment is started, the server-side payment layer that talks to the gateway, and a smaller listener endpoint that receives gateway message like webhooks or callbacks. There are only two methods in which the payment gateways integrate or interact, that is a webhook or a callback URL. So now the programmer defines one internal payment object in their own system with fields like internal order reference, customer reference, amount, currency, status, created time, updated time, gateway reference IDs. So the business can track a payment even before the payment confirms it. Because we need to have a link between what we are passing into the payment company and what we are getting back. What should we relate it to in our ERP or in our system or in our website or in our app. So there is a set of transactional details that we have to link it to the actual payment, but the payment company will just do the payment process. They won't validate what we are giving in, whatever it is. It is just information that we have to gather from the ERPs, the POS, or the website or the application, and hold it. Now from there, you initiate it to the payment company, the transaction, financial transaction. So when the financial transaction happens and comes back, the operational transaction, the actual business transaction is now linked because there is a reference that now links both. So now again, if it is a webhook, you know the pipe in which you have initiated a transaction and the same pipe in which you are going to get back the transaction. So from there, you will have a link between your data and then the financial data. And then the other side, the callback URL. When you are now going to listen to the payment service provider for them to respond, again you have a callback URL through which when you are listening back, that is where the order ID goes and comes back. So any of that transactional, financial transactions, references or phone number or, looking at the bank account or the name, all those are the time and the transaction amount. All these are used to now match it with our transaction, business transaction detail, because it is a callback URL. There is no synchronization between the transaction initiated and the transaction coming back. We are the one to link it. That is the programmer's point of view, job from the programmer side. Now, the programmer creates a start payment endpoint at their backend. For example, a URL like payment start, which will be called by the front end when the user clicks pay. And the front end sends the minimum details needed, such as amount, currency, what is being bought, user identity, email or phone number, and an internal order reference. When the payment start endpoint or the URL is called, the backend validates the request and creates a local payment record with status pending, generates a unique reference and prepares the request to the payment gateway using the gateway credentials stored safely on the server, never in the front end. The backend then calls the gateway's create payment request API. You can now look at it. Create payment request API. These are all the APIs that you will use. You don't have to worry about all the APIs given by the payment service provider or the payment gateway provider. You just look at what you need. Let's discuss about just what is needed so that you now launch your MVP, then think about other aspects. So the backend then calls the gateway payment create payment request API, which is usually one of these patterns: create order, create checkout session, create payment intent, create invoice, or initiate mobile money push. And the request typically contains amount, currency, merchant reference, customer details, and the URLs where the gateway should send the user back and where the gateway should notify the server. So the key URLs the programmer sets are usually two types: a user written URL such as success URL or cancel or failure URL, which the customer browser can be redirected to, and a server notification URL such as webhook URL or callback URL, which the gateway will call directly to confirm the real payment result. The gateway responds back to the backend with the gateway payment reference and either a checkout link for the redirect based payments or a token or secret for embedded payments. And the backend saves those gateway IDs into local payment record. The backend then responds to the front end with only what the front end needs, usually a checkout URL to redirect the user or a payment token client secret. So each and every payment token has a client secret to render an embedded payment widget and also returns the internal payment reference so that the front end can track status. The front end then starts the customer payment experience in one of four common ways: redirecting the user to a hosted checkout page, opening an overlay checkout, rendering an embedded payment form, or for mobile money showing a check your phone and enter PIN message, while the backend has already initiated the push request. While the customer is paying, the front end should switch to a simple state like processing, and the programmer should implement the wait for UI to learn the final result using either a polling endpoint like payment status with the payment reference, or real-time updates like WebSocket, or server sent events, or simply by reloading the order page that reads the latest status from the backend. After the customer pays, the gateway may redirect the user to the success or failure page, but the programmer should treat that redirect as not final proof. And the real confirmation must come from the gateway to the backend through the webhook or callback URL. The programmer builds the webhook or callback endpoint, for example, webhook/gateway name. And when the gateway calls it, the backend must verify the message is genuine using a signature or shared secret. Then parse the event type and payment reference and update the local payment status to paid, failed, cancelled, or refunded. The webhook handler must not allow duplications, meaning if the gateway sends the same event multiple times, the system should not activate the service twice. So the programmer stores the incoming event ID and marks it processed before triggering any delivery options. Once the backend updates the payment as paid, the programmer triggers fulfillment, meaning update the user's access or confirm the order in the database, generate a receipt or invoice, and send notification, and the front end then shows success by reading the updated status from the backend. If the gateway sends failed or cancelled, the backend updates status accordingly. And the front end shows a clear message and allows retry by calling. Payments start again with the new reference. For mobile money, SDK push, specifically the programmer's request to the gateway must include a public callback URL and the gateway returns request ID. And later, the callback sends result codes and transaction IDs. And the backend maps those results to internal status updates and stores the transaction receipt details. The programmer also builds refund support by creating an endpoint like payments refund. We have to create the endpoint for refunds, cancellations, all those, where the backend calls the payment gateway refund API using the stored gateway payment ID. Update status to refund updating. Update status to refund pending. And finalize to refunded. When a refund confirmation event is received, finally, the programmer implements reconciliation by storing gateway fees, settlement dates, and payout references from reports or payout APIs. So, finance can match every internal order to the gateway payment and to the backend bank deposit. Ensuring the business can scale globally with clear audit trails. All these happens, and this can be possible only when the programmer understands the whole flow and then implements all those and stores all the data in the data store, then comes back with the reconciliation process. Across all gateways, the communication paths are always the same, 3 directions. So whatever we have discussed at the end of the discussion, it is all 3 direction. Front end to back end for starting payment, checking status, and backend to gateway for creating payments and refunds, and gateway to backend for confirmations through webhooks or callbacks. And the front end never trusts itself for final payment truth. It only displays what the backend confirms. So, friends, these are the ways in which we can integrate as a programmer and also as an end user for you to understand what really happens when you click to pay, or when you feel like you want to pay for whatever the purpose, maybe for a subscription, maybe for a purchase, maybe for anything from a website. So I'm happy to be connected to you so that you learn something every day, which is a common man question, but still something has to be cleared. So I am clarifying those as I clarify mine and my team's request and day-to-day requirements. Thanks a lot. Thank you, my friends. Cheers. Bye.